Hi, happy Thursday. I am Allegra of Beyond Your Wildest Dreams, your resident productivity, brain science based productivity and time management expert. But really, I'm all about self care first because I have found in my life that if you don't take care of yourself, you don't have time to get anything else done because you're just focused on your health. So, self care forward, productivity and time management expert. And thank you for joining me. If you're joining me live, feel free to ask questions in the chat. If there's a question that I feel needs to be answered, I will answer it. And if you comment after the fact, often I will see those and I will get to those as soon as I can. But for now, I'm just going to get started and say, welcome. If you're joining me for the first time, I am the author of these 4 short read workbooks, all designed to help you prioritize yourself and your goals. I like to say, if you don't know where to start, I like to say start with this one, 3, 2, 1, done, because 3, 2, 1, done is the equivalent of creating more time, right? Who doesn't need more time? And this will help you create more time by being systematic about any to-do list that you have, whether it's personal or professional. It will help you understand a framework that you can apply so that you always know where to start and what to do next, instead of staring at a to-do list like, oh my gosh, there's so many things to do, just analysis paralysis. This helps you get over that. So that's me. And I like to start every podcast by welcoming my listeners. I am heard in over 90 countries. I might be close to 100 by this point. I have to go count. And it's always fascinating to me to see where my listeners are coming from. I've been doing fun facts about my listeners because it feels like the top 10 and 20, there's always a little bit of shifting. And so today I'm going to talk about Mexico. Welcome, Mexico. Over the last 30 days, I've had a larger percentage of my listeners coming from Mexico. And so I like to share interesting facts about these countries. Some of them I've never been to, and so I'm learning for the same time. Mexico is a country I've had the great joy of being to, as well as I have family in Mexico, so that's really fun. My dad's side of the family has roots in Guadalajara, so for anyone who knows Mexico, there you go. And especially around Tlaquepaque, if you're familiar with that area, and Tonola. So, fun, interesting facts about Mexico. Mexico actually had the oldest university in North America at one point. I never heard that fact. I think it's fascinating. Apparently, it doesn't exist anymore in the form that it was originally founded, but it was founded in 1551 by Charles V of Spain. It was called Real y Pontificia Universidad de Mexico, and it operated until 1865. So that's fascinating. I am going to have to dive deeper into that fact because I did not know that. Here's a fact I did know that maybe a lot of people don't know. In Mexico, children don't usually get presents on Christmas Day. Instead, they celebrate with gifts on January 6th, which is called Dia de los Reyes, which is when the 3 wise men visited Jesus. So it is on January 6th. And traditionally, you're supposed to leave your shoes out, and gifts get left in shoes. I tried it a couple times. My Hawaiian Asian mother was not really into it. So yeah, that didn't go very far, but I did know it exists. And, originally when the Spaniards came to Mexico, what really did a lot of the killing for them, if you didn't know this, was smallpox. They brought smallpox with them. And apparently it was a version that most of the Spanish were immune to. However, it killed 3 million indigenous Mexicans. And that number is thought to be conservative. Oh my God, that must have been so horrific. And it's actually part of what led to the conquest, because not only did it decimate their numbers, but also the Aztec, the way that it is understood to have been interpreted is that the Aztec assumed it was a punishment from the Christian God, who must be more powerful than their own gods, which led to them quickly accepting Catholicism. So, interesting facts about Mexico. Bienvenido. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. And I'm going to grab a card for my little box of positive chaos. I never know what it says, but it's always exactly what I need to hear. So let's see what it says today. Among the things you can give and still keep are your word, a smile, and a grateful heart. Zig Ziglar. Oh my gosh. So I'm very familiar with Zig Ziglar, and I don't know exactly. He was a motivational speaker a long time ago. How long? I'm not exactly sure. 50s, 60s? I don't know. And by that I mean 1950s, 1960s. Anyway, he was a motivational speaker, and I know he was a like star salesman. And what a great quote. Among the things you can give and still keep, your word, a smile, and a grateful heart. Ah, I love that. Yeah. I mean, I actually saw, I'm sure you've seen this before, some version of it. I feel like I see a version of it frequently, but I always love it, which is, it's always like a movie that is shot as though it's a day in the life, and you see people interacting with each other negatively, and you see how that negative energy gets transferred from person to person to person until one person finally says, no more. I'm going to send out positive energy. And then you see that person goes about their day and kind of bumps into the same people that they bumped into that started the negative ripple, only they start the positive ripple. And I'm a big believer in that. In fact, one of my habits that I feel like really is what helps me maintain a positive attitude is I never get angry in the car. And you might not drive. You might be in a culture that isn't on the road a lot, but in Los Angeles, it's very much a car culture. You don't have to get into a car, but most of us do because things are very spread out. And like, for instance, my kiddo's school is about 15 miles away from me. So I have to get in the car. If we were even to bike ride that, it would take what, an hour and a half, 2 hours. So not to mention arriving very sweaty. So I'm in the car lot, and I never get upset. It's something that people notice because I just don't see the point. If you yell, it's not even like that person hears you. Like, that's the crazy thing to me, is the people that are yelling in their car to themselves. And really, it creates all that negative energy within you. How are you feeling when you arrive at your destination? I always feel great because I get into a car. I know I'm going to get into some sort of, long distance travel because that's just the nature of where I live. That's like, being, that's like living in England and getting upset about the fog. Like, it's just there. It's part of it. That would be like living in LA and being upset about the sunshine. I don't get upset about things that are just going to happen regardless of what I do. So I just control the one thing I can control, which is me and having a good attitude. And so I feel like that's a lot of what Zig Ziglar is saying here. Like, you can control keeping your word, giving someone a smile, and having a grateful heart. And ultimately, that's all you can control. Although you can make phone calls. And for those of you who've been following me for a while, you know that I have been very active in speaking out about the things that I am not happy about that are happening in this country and in the world. And I urge you to use your voice and check out 5calls.org, 5calls.org. You go there, you enter your zip code, you can just pick a topic that concerns you. It gives you a script. It gives you the phone numbers. It takes less than 2 minutes to call your representatives. So I was someone who maybe called a representative once every 4 years back in the day. I have become like, this is on speed dial now for me, or speed. It's just lives on my browser. So 5 calls, make your voice heard. It'll make you feel better. It'll get the numbers up. The numbers do matter. They do listen. At some point, we are a wave and they cannot ignore us. So call5calls.org. So today's topic is about making invisible work visible. And I find that this topic is one of the reasons why things take longer than people think, because they don't make the invisible work visible. When you make invisible work visible, you have a much better sense of what's actually on your plate than when you don't. So let me give you an example. And by the way, if you need to listen to this again, or if you want to listen to this again, you can always hear this on the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. It will go up on all platforms later today. And so check that out. Okay, so what I want to say is that let's say, and I'm going to give you a personal example and a professional example of making invisible work visible. Let's say that you are planning Thanksgiving dinner. And I'm going to put this on the screen for those of you who are readers more than maybe listeners. So let's say you are planning Thanksgiving dinner. Oh, I didn't want to put it there. I'm going to move that to somewhere else. Let's say you are planning Thanksgiving dinner and you want to, oh, they changed it. I used to be able to put it up here. Okay. So let's say you are planning Thanksgiving dinner and you put Thanksgiving dinner on your planner. And so you have that, Thanksgiving dinner, 6 p.m. on November, I'm just going to say 24th. And all you write down is 6 p.m. on November 24th. Okay. So you put that in your planner. Well, that's just the due date. That's not everything that needs to happen. And if you're only writing that down, then all of the other things that you need to do to make this event happen, you're holding it in your head. And when you use your head like a to-do list, it clogs up, let's just call it processing time, and it makes you unable to do higher level, more creative thinking. It's actually very tiring. It's kind of like when you have lots of windows open on your computer and your computer starts going slower and slower and slower. It's kind of like that. So I like to get all of that invisible work out of my head and into my planner so that I don't have to think about that stuff. And so let's say you have Thanksgiving dinner, you can just grab a piece of paper. If you're not a planner user yet, I say yet because I hope someday you will be a paper planner user, because I find them to be very useful. And you're just going to back up. So let's say you have dinner at 6 p.m. on November 24th. Okay, what date do you want to send out invitations? I personally like to ask people a month in advance. So invite guests by October 24th. Okay, so now that makes it on my planner. So on October 24th, I literally will write in, invite guests to Thanksgiving. Okay, and then you kind of have to back into even that, which is you have to come up with your guest list, right? So depending on how you do an event like Thanksgiving dinner, you might have an auto-programmed guest list. I like to invite a few friends. I kind of ask around to see who maybe doesn't have anywhere to go. And so I like to start thinking about my guest lists about 10 days before. So Thanksgiving guest list, October 14th. Sorry, I got a typo in there. So now I have 3 things on my planner. I have 6 p.m., the actual dinner. I have invite guests by October 24th. I have the guest list done by October 14th. But then I have more things than that as well. I will also pencil in my shopping trips. So for instance, I like to do, and these are not going to be in order because there's no way for me to edit it in order, unfortunately. But I like to do my grocery shopping the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So in this pretend example, it's on the 24th. So that means it would be the 16th. So grocery trip number 1, November 16th. So that would go into my planner as well. And I would put down any special things that I need to get. You know, I usually know what I need for the average Thanksgiving dinner, but I will have a grocery shopping list just to make it easier because depending on how many people I have, I need to know numbers. Then I will also pencil in, I like to do my grocery shopping on Wednesday, Friday, and then Monday. So November 16th, trip number 2 would be 16th, 17th, 18th. And then trip number 3 would be 18th, 19th, 20th, 21st. So I have all of those in my planner because I find that the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, the shelves are stocked, the stores are empty, and nothing's going to go bad in that time frame. You can put a turkey into the freezer and then you can defrost it a few days before, depending on how big it is. So that's what I do. I get my turkey, I get everything on that Wednesday. I put the turkey in the freezer, and then if they were out of things or if I forgot something, that's what Friday is for. And then Monday is for, oh my gosh, we had huge omelets over the weekend. Now we're out of eggs. I need to get one last minute trip. So I plan for 3 trips. Usually I only end up doing 2. I have done 3 in the past. That's why I have the 3rd one scheduled just in case. But last year I actually got everything done on one trip because by starting on Wednesday, it's just there's a lot fewer things out of stock. So it's great. I used to actually not do the grocery shopping until the Friday before, but I found that the Wednesday before is even better. So that's why I do that. And the funny thing is it is my people who are in the grocery store at that time because I just see people like me with their long list on the cart, just going slowly and leisurely doing their grocery shopping. It's hilarious. We all see each other and we're like, oh yeah, I see you. I am you. So that goes on there. And then I even put other things in there, such as start cooking, because I will start cooking some things depending on how many people are coming. Like for instance, sometimes I'll make the bread 2 or 3 days before Thanksgiving, and then I'll pop it in the freezer, and then I'll just kind of like par bake it. So I'll cook it 80% of the way, put it in the freezer, and then the day of, I'll just pop them in the stove and heat them up. You can also do basically all the starches. You can do the potatoes, you can do sweet potatoes that way. The only thing that really needs to be cooked day of is the turkey and the veggies. Everything else can be made in advance. So I will put down dates to cook things into my planner. And then I will also put down start. It's taking me forever to get to the end here now to type. Start decorating the house. So you can see, instead of one thing on my planner, which is just the due date, as I said, the dinner itself, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I probably have 10 or 11 things on my planner. So this is what I mean by making invisible work visible. A lot of people would treat all of the other information besides the due date as invisible work and just be holding it up there in their head. And that's why you feel disorganized, because you don't have a clear plan of when you're doing things. You don't have a clear sense of due dates. You're not clear on the shopping list, whatever. It makes it so much easier to plan a big party or a dinner like this when you make the invisible work visible. Okay? So let's take a professional example of this. And let's say you are working to land a new client. And I'm just going to put on there, you have a goal of 1 new client this month. Okay, so the science shows that most people don't write down their goals, and even fewer people attach a date to their goal. But let's say you have done that, which, yay, you are ahead of the game. But then what's your plan for landing this one new client this month? If you've ever worked in sales, you know that sales is a long game. It's very rare that you pitch something and it happens that same day. Like, for instance, right now I have something that is finally coming to fruition after about 8 months. That's just how long it takes sometimes. And so if you have a goal of having one new client a month, really this month, really there are things you need to have been doing before. Just like with the Thanksgiving dinner, you need to have thought about the invite list and sent out the invitations and all of that before that due date. Same thing here. And I'm just going to type it before. So for instance, let's say 2 months ago, you attended a networking event. And if you're serious about growing your client list, hopefully this networking event is something that you're going to be going to regularly, because you need to be constantly creating opportunities for meeting new clients so that you can go through the process of getting to know them, seeing what you have that they might need, figuring out if that works for them, all of those things, seeing if you even really want to work together. So really, it's kind of a rolling thing where hopefully you have groups that you belong to, that you are regularly attending networking events for this. Sometimes they're just straight up networking events. Sometimes it's things like Rotary Club or Lions Club or Toastmasters or any sort of fraternal organization. Like I'm an elk. Yeah, if you don't know what that is, look it up. The Benevolent Protective Order of the Elks. So you might belong to all sorts of things where you're constantly meeting people, okay? And so let's say you ended up meeting someone that you hit it off with at that networking event, and you gave each other your cards, and you need to now follow up with your new contact. So let's say you put in a date. So 2 months ago, you attended a networking event, follow up with your new contact. And again, I would put this in my planner. Like, for instance, if you talk to someone and they said, hey, I'm really interested in what you are offering. Why don't you give me a call tomorrow? Well, then you put in your planner, call Penelope. I don't know where that name came from. Call Penelope tomorrow. Put that in your planner. If Penelope said to you, I'm really interested in what you have going on, but I'm super busy with the deadline right now. Why don't you reach out to me in a week? Then you put in your planner, in a week, call Penelope, follow up with Penelope. See, so these are all invisible work things that if you take it out of your head and put it into a planner, it's much more likely to happen. How many of us have gotten a business card from someone and thought to yourself, oh, I should follow up with this person, and then the business card goes into your drawer? What I like to do is, if there's a business card that I receive, or maybe it's not a business card because I'm not a big business card person, I'll just get the person's information. I will put in my planner, follow up with Penelope a week from now. I just put it on that date. I will also, if I do get a business card from someone and I want to follow up with them in the future, I will tape it in my planner a month in the future to reach out to them. I will also often, as soon as I get home from a networking event, connect with all the people that I just met on LinkedIn. Okay. So let's say you have met Penelope at a networking event. She said to follow up with her next week. You put that into your planner, and you had a phone conversation with Penelope, and she said, that sounds great. Can you send me a proposal? Okay, so then you have to add to your planner, create proposal for Penelope. And so this is, again, part of that invisible work. And that might require multiple steps, that create proposal for Penelope. You might have to follow up with other people. Every step that it takes to create that proposal for Penelope, maybe giving it to marketing so they can zhuzh it up for you, getting some numbers from finance. You might be a one-person shop, but you might have to also coordinate with other departments in your organization in order to get the things that you need to make this proposal happen. Maybe it needs to get signed off on. So if Penelope has said, get me a proposal, you should kind of have in your head how long it's going to take you. So let's say, okay, you work at a big company, you have to get marketing and finance involved, and you have a manager who has to sign off on it. Okay. And so you mentally will say to yourself, okay, that will take about a week to do all that. And so you say to Penelope, I can get you a proposal in 8 days. Is that okay? 8 business days. Is that okay? And Penelope says, yep, great. So you're going to put that date into your planner. Create proposal for Penelope in 8 days. But then you're going to have to back into that 8 days, right? So it says right here, 8 days. You're going to have to back into those 8 days. Ask your boss, hey, boss, I'm working on a proposal. How many days do you need to look it over? And they say, 48 hours. Okay, so 6 days. 48, you need to write down in your planner, give the proposal to my boss. And then you say to marketing and finance, hey, I'm going to need these numbers. How long do I need? And they say, just a day. Okay, great. So you're going to back into that from 6 days to 4 days, 1 day for each marketing and finance. Marketing should get it last because they'll need finance's input, right? So get it to marketing, 1 day before that 48 hours for the boss, and then finance 1 day before that. And so now that you have 5 days to get the proposal together on your end before you have to give it to finance on day 6. No. You have 4 days. You have to give it to finance on day 5, marketing on day 6. Your bot, no, 3 days. Mental math. So you have 3 days, then you give it to finance for 1 day, you give it to marketing for 1 day, you give it to your boss for 2 days. That gets it to Penelope in 8 days. Okay. So you have to have all of that written down into your planner. And then once Penelope has the proposal, then is the super fun game of follow-up. And sales is all about follow-up. So really, it's going to be follow-up, 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 follow-up. You're going to put in multiple days of following up with Penelope, right? Follow up. So maybe you want to give her, when you give her the proposal, you'll say, hey, when should I check back with you? And she'll let you know. And she probably doesn't look at it in time because we're all busy. Who knows? But you're going to have to follow up multiple times. That's just been my experience. Things always get pushed, unexpected things happen, etc. So you're just going to have to follow up. And eventually you're going to get that new client this month if you have enough Penelopes in your pipeline. And you should know what that is. Like if you know that you need to be talking to about 40 people in order to get one yes, then 2 months ago, you should have made 40 contacts at that last networking event, So these are things you should know. You should know how many people you need in your pipeline in order to end up with one new client. And you need to know about how long it takes for you to turn a person from someone you just met into a client. And then you can work backwards into, okay, this is how many networking events I need to go to. This is how many people I need to meet, how many contacts I need to be cultivating so that you can get to the place of one new client this month. Again, this is all the invisible work that goes into it. And you see how much work it is. This is why people think, I don't know why I'm so busy. I only have to get one new client this month, but they haven't worked out all of the invisible work that is involved in getting that one client a month, just like with Thanksgiving and dinner. And I think this is, I don't know about you, but I feel like there are people who like to have people over and there are people who don't like to have people over. And I think the reason why the people who don't like to have people over is because it feels like so much work because they haven't figured out that having people over is not just that single event. It is figuring out the guest list, figuring out the menu, doing the shopping, inviting people. It's all of those steps. But once you know what those steps are, then at least you can decide with a clear mind, oh, okay, I know what I need to do in order to make that happen. Like, for instance, I entertain way less now that I have a kiddo who has her own schedule because we just don't have time. But back when we didn't have a kiddo, I entertained all the time because I had time. But I know what it takes to entertain, which is why I don't really have time right now. I imagine at some point in my life that will change, but it's because I know what the invisible work is that's included in that. So make invisible work visible, put that into your planner, and you will have a much better sense of what you need to do, when you need to do it, and how much effort that thing is actually going to take. And, if you've heard me before, then you've heard me talk about something called keystone habits. Keystone habits are habits that have been shown to have a much bigger benefit than just the initial thing that you do. So, for instance, making your bed is one of the most well-studied keystone habits there is. Like, not only does it make your room look neater, but it's been shown to just boost your outlook on the day because it gives you a quick win. It improves executive functioning. It has all of these benefits. It's so studied. If you type in keystone habits making the bed, you'll be shocked at the amount that has been written about it. Okay. Planning is also one of these keystone habits because not only does it make you more organized, but by having a plan, it's been shown to reduce anxiety. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on the internet. But I have felt this, like literally, as when I work with my planner, I feel my anxiety level decrease because I'm no longer having to hold all this stuff in my head. It's now in a place that I can refer to easily. So this is why I always say planning makes everything easier because it does reduce the anxiety and it makes it really clear on what you have to do. So thank you for joining me today. Next week's podcast is a little bit up in the air because I am going to be doing my annual trip with some of my girlfriends. And so I always love having them on the podcast whenever possible. So we might do the podcast a little bit early because we aren't together on Thursday. So I'll figure it out, hoping to bring you that podcast. That's my goal. We'll see. I might have to do a re-release of a previously recorded. We'll see how it all works out. But until then, be sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen. Remember, fivecalls.org. It makes you feel so good to do something proactive and to get your voice heard. And remember, planning makes everything easier. Bye.